My original focus for this project was to learn how to create a lesson plan and see how, in the moment, your plan changes through teaching. However, this changed drastically when COVID-19 occurred. As opposed to creating a lesson plan for each lesson, I was given the opportunity to tutor Mrs. Morrison's daughter Hope. Each lesson was different and each assignment changed based on what the teacher wanted, which meant that I learned how to respond to the students' needs in the moment and how to be adaptable when teaching firsthand. With each lesson I taught, I learned how to balance expectations and reality. I learned how to respond to the student by asking questions differently in a way that the student would most likely understand. I learned how to break concepts down and build them back up again. Most importantly, I learned that my experience could be translated to her. I became more confident in what I knew and was able to pass that on to her. In terms of guided reading response questions, one of my strengths is that I can analyze the situation and add details going forward. And I taught Hope the same thing. And over time, she was able to learn the strategies of TTQA, or turning the question around, how to pull information from a text or video and translate that into a question. What gave me this confidence was knowing that I had the power to pass on information that I had learned over time. For my second type of lesson, I was able to create my own lesson plan. And in doing this, I was able to break down the parts of a letter into their components in order to build it back up again. I started by writing down the 7 parts of a letter and their purposes in terms of how a letter is written. So there's a return address, there's body paragraph number 2, there's intro paragraph, body paragraph number 1, conclusion, closing, and greeting. Which one do you think would go first? You're on the right track, but what goes at the top right-hand corner of a letter? If you're mailing something to someone, what do you put on the envelope?
Dear whoever.
That's right, but what else? Like, do you say where they live, where you're sending the letter to, maybe?
Return address.
Yeah. So we're going to put that in front of greeting. Now what do you think?
Greetings.
Yep. And then what?
Into paragraph.
What next?
Body paragraph 1. Body paragraph.
Okay. So what do you think goes here? Awesome job. Then I built upon this matching activity by using a sample letter I created that was personal to Hope to help bridge the gap in identifying how a letter is formed. Finally, we had a discussion on the importance of letter writing so that I could learn what was going to be meaningful for her to incorporate within her letter. Who do you think in your life would like you to write a letter to them? Who do you think would appreciate it?
My family, like my Nana, Papa, and Grandma and Grandpa, and my cousins and uncles and aunts.
So you think your family that might be a little bit farther away from you?
Yeah, because I'm not really able to hang out with my grandparents because they can get it from us.
That makes sense. So you might want to, because they're isolated, right? That letter would make them feel connected to you right now. So One of the reasons that I chose letter writing right now is right now we're isolated from people physically, many times for health reasons, and so to be able to write letters, it's a way of connecting with people on a deeper level than emails and texting can do, and the interpersonal relationships that you can create. And that's why I feel that letter writing is something that everyone should learn how to do, even if life uses technology a lot of the time. We also, in doing this, we shared my perspective and her perspective. So we were able to go back and forth and learn more about each other too, forming a relationship. Finally, when we wrote the letter together, we were able to write to her grandparents, who she hasn't seen since Christmas. And doing this, we were able to bridge the gap between distances and realize that writing has a personal connection.
Okay. We have been so blessed to have Molly spending time with our sweet Hope during this crazy time. One of the greatest things that I have always noticed about Molly is her attention to detail, and her ability to help Hope pay attention to details has been magnificent. She's been working with her on all kinds of different assignments, all different subjects, and it has paid off. And I think it's mostly been paying off in seeing how Hope is now answering questions with more details, similarly to how Molly would do it. Nowhere near Molly's level, but it has been so great seeing the improvements she's made just by spending time with Molly. Thanks, Molly.
Amazing presentation, Molly. Actually, that was outstanding. Now, have you ever had that friend that looked up to you and you enjoyed being around? That one friend that makes you laugh? And that one friend who has watched you grow up and adapt as she went from a little girl, teenager, and from teenager to someone who will be driving soon? Yikes. Sounds like her parents may have more adapting to do pretty soon. I couldn't think of a better person to close our final showcase of this year. One of the OGs, sharing how adaptability has applied to all of us at Indi ED. Welcoming Angelina. Woo!
Adaptability. Name a better time to have that as an inquiry theme. So ironic that Mrs. Lorenzi had to confirm that she did not predict the coronavirus. But seriously, think about it. 2 months into quarantine, and I am still questioning, what is happening? Quarantine has really got me and my family going. Me going to bed at 5 in the morning almost every day. My dad found a karaoke app, and we decided to play a 4-hour game of Monopoly. As a family. I hate Monopoly. But in reality, we're all pretty fortunate, even if we are slowly losing our minds. Our state doesn't have the worst of it, and this is just a whole new reality that we're adapting to. And that's the beauty of adaptability. It can hit you anywhere, anytime. And sometimes we can't control the fact that it's happening or that it needs to happen. However, we can always control how we react to it. I wanted to hear about how different people have reacted to the situation we are currently going through. So I asked a few of my friends. Throughout quarantine, how have your emotions changed and how do you feel currently? They all had very similar responses. At the beginning, they were kind of pumped and felt confident about being quarantined. But then as time went on, the boredom really hit and they were just confused about what to do. And currently, they're all in the mindset of, I have all this time and schoolwork, and I just want to knock everything out. But then I asked my dad, just to get more perspectives, and his response was actually not too far from the rest. He shared that at the beginning, he was curious to see how things would play out, and if anything would change afterwards, but overall, the reality of it was just kind of shocking. He also got bored. I've never really seen my dad bored, but there have been times where he would come into my bedroom just to let me know that he's bored. And then for a teacher and business owner's perspective, I asked Mrs. Lorenzi the same questions. She shared that at the very beginning, she had a ton of fear of the unknown. No one knew what was happening or what was going to happen next. But then she realized that her health came first, so she had to stick to her schedule. But then once that happened, she started worrying about us. But as soon as we were able to get in contact and assured her we were all okay, it was game on. Then the cycle began. But as a business owner, of course the thought of, well, how will this impact Indi ED came into her brain. But she trusts herself and her team that we are doing everything we can to the best of our ability. She said it's almost like a roller coaster. One dip after another, but then always the next rise. For me personally, I can relate to everything. I think at this point, I felt every emotion possible towards the situation. Some days are more of, today was kind of a good day to be with myself and keep myself in check. But then I also have my days where I'm just kind of, oh my God, I miss school, I miss my friends, I miss going places, I miss going out to eat, the everyday life. So overall, I'm doing okay. Every day just has its own emotion. One of the ways we were studying adaptability before school ended was we had just got done reading the book, How Successful People Think. I think as an informative book, it was definitely one of the ones I took away from most, because it dug more into being aware of how powerful our brains are and how controlling our thinking can really affect our lives. This book put my mind in the right place, I think, because ever since we stopped reading the book, or the book ended, I've really been more confident in myself. One of my favorite quotes was, "A man must be big enough to admit his mistakes, smart enough to profit them, and strong enough to correct them." And to me, that means that even if life really isn't going the way you planned, if you can take a stand and find a way to fix things to your ability, then you'll be more than okay in the end, and you will definitely come out stronger. So if we're talking about adaptability, it's not just Corona and leadership in my life right now that I've been relating to, and this is the sad part, but this is my last inquiry project. I have completed 13 inquiry projects from 5th to 8th grade. And I understand that moving schools, going into high school, that's all going to take adaptability, but I'm ready for that. For me, it's going to be leaving the Indi ED community that's going to be hardest. There's an endless amount of lessons that I've learned and will never forget, and friends that I've made that hopefully I will never lose. But it's just, this is my team, and this is my family who I've grown with and really appreciate a lot. And I mean, I'll still be around. It's not like I'm leaving for good to never be seen again. But to all my friends who I genuinely love with my entire soul, thank you for being you and for really helping me become the person I am today. And thank you to Miss Lorenzi for sticking with your dreams, because none of us would be who we are today without you or Indi ED. And thank you to Mrs. T and Mrs. Pathe for joining along and helping Indi ED be the amazing place it is. And one last time, thank you for attending Indi ED's 13th showcase.
Thank you, Ange. Thank you for closing out our amazing showcase for 2020. Now, we've got one more thing in store for you guys. We've got a little slideshow full of amazing pictures throughout the whole 2019-2020 school year. So, let's roll the clips.